Hello, brilliant entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast. This is episode number 344, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/344. And you'll want to take note of that episode number and come and check out the show notes today because this is a spotlight episode of the Heart Centre Business Podcast, and I am joined by the amazing Tarsh Bamblett. You might know her as Queen Acknowledgments, and if you've been to an event or conference within Australia in the last couple of years, chances are you have seen or been witness to one of Tarsh's brilliant Acknowledgement of Country ceremonies. Tash is speaking at the Heart Centre Business Conference as well and presenting on cultural excellence. So we get to experience all of her amazing wisdom and learn from her, as well as experiencing one of her Acknowledgement of Country rituals as well. So without further ado, remember, the podcast episode number is 344. I'm going to hand it over to Past Tash and Tash for this brilliant episode of the podcast. Enjoy. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Spotlight interview. I'm joined today by the amazing Natasha Bamblett. You may also know her as Queen Acknowledgments. Welcome, Natasha.
Hi, Tash. It's so lovely to be here.
Wonderful. Now, we already know that you are a very fierce and authentic speaker. I've seen you do a lot of acknowledgement of countries, and your content online is very much focused around education and being an activist. But I'd love to know from you, first and foremost, where did this business come from? And, what was the origin story of Queen Acknowledgements?
Yeah, amazing. Well, basically, this had begun around 9 years ago. And for me, it started through dance, through the passion of connection to culture, through song, dance, and art. And it was basically a group of young Indigenous boys and girls coming together in my garage, practicing and learning a dance that myself and my brother had choreographed, teaching some other young ones that we could then perform for the community in the Indigenous kinder and the elders for NAIDOC week, not realizing that it was so much more than that. It had become a positive way that people were spending their time, was taking kids off the street and into a positive environment. We were connecting to each other. We were sharing story, supporting one another, and we were getting the praise from the community that we were doing something that was positive for ourselves and our culture, continuing that culture. And it was me in front of a room full of elders, which is the most daunting room that I could ever be in as an Aboriginal woman, really holding the pride of and the strength of the elders that have come before me, and to really want to honor and do them all proud, and honoring and acknowledging the land. So that was me almost 10 years ago. And fast forward, it's been a part of my ritual. It's been a part of my daily life, of how I move about different lands, even when we travel in different countries across this nation. That has been what I've done for myself and what I've passed on to my children. And the beautiful Queen of Confidence was like, what are you doing? Like, this is the thing, and I think it just really took for somebody to see the magic and the power that I hold, and for me to then step into that power and ownership. And 2.5, 3 years on, fully going all in on myself, Queen Acknowledgments is now where it is, and I'm known for all of the acknowledgements that I've done so far.
Yeah, and you're so well known all around the country now. I've even attended several online conferences, and there you are, Acknowledgement of Country, and it's so wonderful to see. I'd love to know, were there any challenges, or was there any hesitancy that you had in stepping into this in like a business model, and
Yeah.
like charging good money for this, and having it having it recognized as an important part of conferences and events and those sorts of things?
100%. This was something that I didn't choose. Um, and for many business owners or entrepreneurs, you kind of choose what you go into. And for me, this is a part of my identity, of
Yeah.
who I am, my culture. And it's been a ritual that we've been speaking to for a long time and bringing the importance and the value that acknowledgement of country holds when we bring it into a presence or a conference or a part of a practice or a ceremony, that we really get to honor the land, the first people, and why we're here. It
Mm,
really brings presence into the space. And the challenge has been, well, how do I charge? And understanding the that when you talk about energy and the transaction and showing up and sharing knowledge, that can come at a price.
yeah.
I was physically feeling it and spiritually and energetically, but then how do I put that so that I'm getting this almost transactional
Mm,
or you know honoring my time and knowledge. So
yeah.
the challenges have been with how do I put this in a business model, and also how do I navigate and still honor my people, the countries that I'm on, and honoring the cultural appropriateness of it and the protocols of being really respectful to the First Nations and the traditional custodians of the land of where I am doing that.
Amazing. And I mean, we see this with a lot of people from marginalized spaces, that even people with a disability, when it's Disability Awareness Week, they're expected to speak for free. International Women's Day, how many women just recently were asked to speak for free because they're tokenized in some of those situations? And something that I would love to reflect back to you is that in you standing up and charging appropriately, you've created a ripple. You're part of that wave of people setting the standard that this is something that needs to be paid for, that needs to be an appropriate energetic exchange. So yeah, I absolutely love. I've got goosebumps all over my body since you started talking, but I absolutely love seeing that. You're contributing to this being seen as something that is of value and should be paid and recognized. And you're coming to speak at the Heart Centre Business Conference, and that's something that's always been important to me, is because most of our speakers, if not all of them, are women or non-binary people, and it's really important to me that they get paid, like, first and foremost, because even in my early days of business, there would be conferences and I would look at the page and it's all white dudes. And so I would contact them and say, is there going to be any diversity at this conference? Are we going to see any women on stage? And they would say, oh, well, we're really struggling to find women speakers. Do you want to be a speaker? But they wouldn't pay me, but they've paid all these dudes. And it was just like, wait a minute. And so I can only imagine how much harder it is when you want Acknowledgement of Country to be part of that event, but you also need to be paid properly. So if
Mm.
anyone else is going through that, whether they come from a marginalized community or person with a disability or someone who wants to be a speaker, do you have any advice on really how to stand strong with that, or how to stay true to that charging for the experience and what you bring to the table?
Yeah, well, that's been my journey. I started off with a lot of free offerings
Yeah.
and my time was free. And then it went to gift vouchers and, a really small portion, like appreciation for all of that because it has allowed me to grow. For me, it would be take on those experiences that you've had and then stop and reevaluate what it is that you stand for. It's connecting and being inspired from people that are doing what you're doing or what you want to do or have done what you're doing and have made it to the next level. And then it's just learning from them, connecting with them. For me, my biggest growth has been from showing up.
Yep.
And when you show up, you're in presence and you're in, sharing knowledge and wisdom, and not only the content, but you're watching how people hold themselves in their power. Especially when you are sharing from a place of story and identity. For me, it's my culture, my identity, my belonging. So that's almost like embedded in me from the heart. It's not something that I've researched and studied for. It's different. And when it is you and your story, before you even step out of your home to go to this place, like there should be $1 value on that. And the reality is everything that we do has a currency.
Yes. Yeah.
And the currency of exchange is in dollars. So step into your power, know your worth, but it's also understanding what it is that you're giving and that you and your story is valuable.
Yeah.
And people should be honoring that. And it's, if there is things that really align with you, that it's maybe a charity cause or it's for, other marginalized communities or the people from your backgrounds or stories of life, there's moments where you say, all right, I my cup is full because I've been paid from this and this and this, that I can give more of my time for, no to very little amount of money, right? But you have to have money in your pockets because
yes,
that's how we live that's how we live.
Yeah, and there's that prolific kind of belief that giving you exposure is enough of a financial reward for having you on stage at an event or being part of an event. But we're seeing more and more that people are standing in their power and saying, like, I could get more exposure by just posting on my own social media today, that rather than having to put on a bra and get out the door and step onto stage and all of those sorts of things. So that's great. I think also sometimes there are bigger business benefits. So like what you said, you did a lot of events for free at the start. That's building your experience, your network, people seeing it and going, oh, I want her at my event, those sorts of things. Because that's how I found you initially, was I saw you at someone else's event, went, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Follow you on Instagram, next conference, you'll be there. So, there is sometimes that business benefit. Rihanna did the Super Bowl for free, right? So that was like shock horror to everyone around the world, but there was a financial benefit. Fenty was, her makeup brand was the best searched thing, but that's a huge audience and a televised audience that you're getting in front of. So I think also there's something to be said about being clear on what the real benefit is of being on stage or sharing your story with an audience. And sometimes I think we also have to make the mistake of doing something for free to learn, I'm never doing that for free again.
100%. And you also need to know what your message is, and the person or the stage or the people, your audience or the presence or the client, whoever's coming to you, do they also align with you?
Yeah.
And I'm at that stage, which I'm really grateful for, that I now am able to say no.
Yeah.
and remember the grind and the hustle, and was like, yes, yes, yes to every opportunity because I didn't want to miss out, which led to burnout. And then now I'm in a position where, you want to say yes to the things that are putting you in the right spaces with the right people that are aligning with you, that are going to connect you to your next job and your next collaboration, that you're learning from the people or receiving from the people in the space as much as you're giving as well. In particular, for me as a mum, me walking out that door is time away from my family, my children. And I need to know that what I'm giving out there is impacting somebody else's position that in return goes back to support how my children grow.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now, we've got you at conference speaking about cultural excellence. So I'd love to hear from you just a little summary of what do you see as cultural excellence, particularly in the online business space these days?
Cultural excellence, it's about, for me, anybody that's living, working, growing, connecting, learning on Australian soils, that you're understanding the cultural backgrounds, the history, the power and connection of the First Nations people with the land, and how you can respectfully move and impact the space and the people of your community, your home, your work environments, and how we can also be in a cultural excellence with ourselves in our own environments. And if you have a team, what does that look like? How are we opening up to diversity and inclusion? How are we amplifying the voices that have so long maybe been suppressed, silenced, dimmed? We're shining the light, and in particular to the people that are in positions with opportunities. We'll be talking about biases and stereotypes and the privileges, and how all of those things will put you in a position of power. With power, we have responsibility, and to not only empower you to the next level in your position and in your story, and using First Nations wisdom and connection to country as a way moving forward, that you take your cultural environments, your values to the next level.
Gorgeous. I'm so excited to see you at the Heart Centre Business Conference, Tash. I have been waiting for this for years because we have had to delay a couple of times. But thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. We will also, in the show notes of today's episode, link to your Instagram, which is brilliant. If you're not following Tash on Instagram, she's Queen Acknowledgments, and we'll link to that in the show notes. But Tash's Instagram feed is divine, so make sure that you follow her there. And something that I ask at the end of podcasts is, if there was something I was to quote you on today, what would you like me to say?
Leave the place better than you found it.
Yeah, gorgeous. I love that so much. Thank you once again, Tash. Make sure everyone that you come and follow Tash. If you want to get your ticket to the Heart Centre Business Conference, we'll also put a link to Tash's coupon code with today's episode. So you'll also be able to get $50 off your ticket if you use that coupon code. So make sure you come and check it out. We are, it's all happening in May in Noosa on Gubbi Gubbi country in the Sunshine Coast. And we are very, very excited to welcome you in, and you'll get to meet Tash, which is so exciting. Thanks so much, everyone. Until next time, we cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.